We got a bidet! Hey everybody, and welcome back for another video. In today's video I wanted to share with you something that is Star Wars and I get to use in my everyday life, because some of you may know, if you've been following on the channel, is that I'm a teacher and I teach math, and at some point I teach integers, so adding and subtracting, 1 and -2 and all those good numbers. And I want to share with you something that I use in my classroom that is Star Wars related to help make this stuff fun. So without further ado, let's get started. Alright, so what it is that we get to use is actually a game that came out a handful of years ago. You'll be able to tell when it came out based on the product. But it is the Han Solo card game. It emulates Sabacc, but for some reason they don't call it Sabacc, maybe so it doesn't resemble gambling. But if we open it up real quick, there's stuff to do with, betting and winning credits and stuff like that. We don't pay attention to that stuff in the classroom. We pay more attention to just actually playing the game and winning. So let's take a little look at different cards that may appear. So there's 3 types of cards in this game. We'll talk about the game and then how it applies to the classroom. If you want to use this in your classroom sometime, or if you want to share it with your teachers and then say, hey, there's a cool assignment we could try out. So there's 3 different types of cards. There's green cards, which represent positive numbers. There are red cards that represent negative numbers. And then there are blue cards that represent 0, so it's kind of neutral. And the object of this game is to have what is in your hand add up to the closest number to 0. So, for instance, if I have a hand right now, where this one, 7, -6, and 0, that adds up to 1, I want to make sure that my opponents are further away from 0. There's a handful of different ways to break tiebreakers in this game. If there's a tie from the distance from 0, so like for instance if I have 1 and somebody else has -1, the positive value wins. If you have a tie and the same number is there, so like 1 and 1, then whoever has the most cards in their hand wins. And if that still isn't enough, then you want to have each player draw a card from the top of the pile and then see who ends up being closer to 0. The way the game works is each player starts off with 2 cards, and then each player decides whether they want to draw a card from the top of the pile, or take one from the discard pile, or do nothing. If you take a card or pick up a card, you can also discard a card on your turn from your hand. You do not have to, but you do have the option. And so once everybody has gone around the table and decided what they want to do, then you roll the dice. So the dice look kind of like this. They got different symbols on them. And in between rounds, when you roll the dice, if the same symbol appears, everybody discards their cards and draws the same amount that they had, which can really shake up the game. You do this for 3 rounds, so 3 rounds of deciding whether you want to pick up a card or stay with what you got. So you'll go around, you make some choices, roll the dice, go around, make some choices, roll the dice, and then make 1 more round of choices. And at the end of that 3rd round, everybody sees what they have in their hand, and then you decide the winner. How does this apply to the classroom setting? Well, this is nothing but adding integers. So we have, positive values here, we get negative values there, and simply we're just adding them up and seeing how close we are to 0. If you want to apply that to something else, it's basically trying to see who has the best absolute value hand. Absolute value in your hand. Kind of a funny way to say it. Because absolute value is the distance from 0, which is what you're counting. You're trying to see how close you are to 0. So tons of different things can be put into this. What I do in my classroom is we play the game for a little bit, and then we look at a worksheet that I made where students have to go through, add up the cards in the two players' hands, and then apply their values to the rules, and then end up seeing, who wins. I think the scenario I said in the assignment was Han and Lando are trying to decide who can take out the Falcon on a little like vacation type deal, and they decide whoever wins 3 out of 5 hands gets to use the Falcon for a week, kind of a thing. And so there's representations of 5 different scenarios at the end of each of their games, and then the students have to go through and decide who won each of the hands and then who won 3 out of the 5 games. So my students love it, even if they're struggling with integers outside of this game. For some reason it tends to click when competition occurs, so it's really cool to see things come together and click for the students when they're dealing with integers and trying to win a game of sabacc, or Han Solo card game as the box calls it. So yeah, this is something I use in my everyday life for the classroom setting whenever we're talking about integers, and students love it. So if you're a teacher or if you're a student that wants to suggest it to your teacher, try it and see how it all goes. Alright everybody, that about wraps up for us today. Again, we took a look at something a little bit different today. We looked at something of Star Wars that I apply to my classroom when I teach mathematics. And you can kind of see where the connections can be made between something in the classroom setting and then something that we can connect to Star Wars. And it all fits together, which is a lot of fun. If you enjoyed this video, please turn on notifications, that way you're alerted when more videos like this drops. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, drop a like if you like this video, and drop a comment letting us know your thoughts on this Star Wars connection to the classroom. And then, as always everybody, thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.